So the question that we're answering today is, what is the best ways to maximize my retirement benefit? Truth is, there's a lot of different ways you could maximize your benefits. But if I have to pick the top 5 most impactful ways to go, or the things that are going to move the needle the most, these would be them. First and foremost, you need to actually maximize your savings accounts. That is deferred compensation plan or 403(b) for school employees. I've seen so many people get to the end of their career, work 30, 35, 40 years for the state, and never heard of a 403(b), never put a dime into the deferred compensation plan. Those are your best assets to use to increase your savings accounts. PEBB Plan 2, it's just a straight pension. You're going to want to have savings to fall back on, start living paycheck to paycheck in retirement. PEBB Plan 3, while you do have a savings component, the investment options are limited, and the contribution rates are also limited based on what you selected when you first started. You can only change your contribution when you change employers. So if you said, hey, I'm going to only do 7%, fast forward, 15 years, now you're like, I really wish I could do 15%, but I can't because I'm still working in the school district and I want to move. Then all you have to do is open up a deferred compensation plan, a 403 account, and fund those. Those accounts will give you more investment options and the ability to save above and beyond what you can do elsewhere. A lot of people will go the Roth IRA route, especially if they're working with an advisor. Roth IRAs are great tools to utilize, but remember that they do have low contribution limits and they do have income limitations to them. Deferred compensation plan and 403(b)s, there is no income limit on either one of those, and your contribution rates are 3 times higher than outside of that. So before you fund a backdoor Roth IRA, look at deferred comp and 403(b)s. If the advisor's not telling you about it, it's either they don't know better or they're not going to make any money if you go that route. So first and foremost thing to do is, if you're trying to maximize your benefit and you're not currently doing it, is open up deferred comp 403(b) and start funding those. Both of them have the option to become Roth as well. So you can have a Roth deferred comp, a Roth 403(b). Same benefits as a Roth IRA, except no income limitations, and you can put 3 times as much money into them. If you're a school district employee, you can actually do both. You can do a deferred comp and a 403(b). They're completely separate tax codes, therefore their set limits are separate. So you could do 30,000 plus into a DCP. You could do another 30,000, for example, in a 403(b) if you're over age of 50. So between those accounts, most people are pretty much covered and don't have to go shopping outside of that for ways to save or invest. Second thing to understand is understanding your healthcare options and utilizing PEBB to its fullest. So PEBB, the Public Employees Benefits Board, for those currently working for the state that are in the school district, this is the plan you're currently on. This is also what you'll use when you separate service. Now, when you separate service, the employer's not paying your half of it, so the costs are going to go up. However, at 65, when you go on Medicare, the rates bump back down. The PEBB options, like coverage-wise, are pretty good. While the cost may be a little higher than some other plans you can find on your own, typically the coverage, deductibles, when you go really deep into it, isn't as good as what PEBB can offer. Remember, PEBB is only for public employees. I cannot get on it myself because I'm not a public employee, but you guys can. If you have that option to use it, you should. With PEBB, for retiree coverage, when you separate service, you have to enroll within either 60 days prior to your separation service or 60 days after. Once that window closes, if you do not apply your deferred coverage, you are no longer eligible to receive that care and you'll be forced to the private market. You have no way to get back in. So the PEBB retirement program is really critical to understand and make sure you apply, even if you're covered by a spouse. Like that is at least defer your coverage to keep your options open in the future. If you're a school district employee currently on SEB, you still transfer into the PEBB upon separation of service. They cover all state employees for the most part, as long as they're a member of the PEBB or HCA accounts. Certain cities I've worked for, like City of Kirkland, for example, they are not members of PEBB, so their employees actually do have to go into the private market. They don't have any other option. So they're actually going to the healthcare exchange and they're going through Kaiser and anywhere they can find insurance at a decent rate. PEBB is off the table for them. So while PEBB will cover the majority of public employees, it does not cover all. So it's important to check with your employer if you're a member of PEBB or not. The third most impactful thing is understanding your retirement date carefully. So you need to know when you're going to pull the trigger. A lot of people will wait way too long to pull the trigger because they're so worried about this thing they call penalty. If I go before 65, there's a penalty. And really, the penalty shouldn't really matter as long as the money you're getting out ahead of time is worth it. So, for example, when we take Social Security, a lot of people, the majority of them will take it early, take it at 62. And Social Security phrases this as an early retirement benefit that is less than their full benefit at 70 because you took it early. They never say it's a penalty. They say, hey, this is the early benefit, this is your full, and this is the max. Washington State, the words throw a lot of people off because 65 is considered the full benefit. Anything below that is considered a penalty or a lesser amount. And really the math is the same as Social Security. Because you're taking it earlier, they're going to pay you less. So no one says don't take Social Security at 62 because the penalty is 30%, which it is. They say, hey, I'm going to take it early and accept that. So I see a lot of people saying, I will not touch the pension plan, but they don't hesitate to take a 30% penalty on Social Security collecting at 62. When it turns out that if you have 30 years in the system, taking your pension at age 60 versus taking it at 65, the full benefit, really, it's only a 5% cut. Because once you're at 30 years, 62 is actually the full age. You're taking a 2-year early from that. The penalty for taking 2 years early with 30 years of service credit is only 5%. So it's just always floors me when someone will avoid a 5% penalty and not hesitate to take a 30% penalty from the Social Security system, all because words matter and they don't understand the differences there. And once you accept a little bit of a penalty or smack on the wrist and realize that it's not that much in the long run, plus you're going to start getting yourself available for cost of living adjustments, which can be from 0 to 3%. How much money you actually lost by taking it early is very minimal, and you won't probably see your break even until your late 80s, if not into the hundreds, depending on the plan and the years you've worked. So long story short, if you have the service credits intact and you're worried about penalties, really just look at the math on it to see, is it really that scary, or are you just scared of the word itself? The fourth thing that I would say to look at is your survivor benefit options. So when you go to collect your pension, you're going to be asked, do you want to pick a survivor? And they give you 4 options. Option 1 is yourself only. It only pays you pass away, your spouse or family gets absolutely nothing. And then they have 3 other options paying out either 50%, 2/3, or the full amount to the spouse. Obviously, the full amount is going to have the biggest reduction on it. The 50% will have the least reduction, and the 2/3 is the middle of the road option there. And what I see most times is a lot of people will either take the 2/3 option because it's the middle of the road option, easy to pick if they want their spouse to have something, or they take the full option because they want the highest income possible. They see the reduction as a waste of money and they want as much money now. Very few people actually run the numbers to see which one actually benefits them the most, what's actually the cheapest. Taking option 1, not taking reduction, sounds great until you kick the bucket and realize your spouse has nothing to survive on except for whatever investments you have left. And the amount of investment you have left may not be enough to replace the income loss from that pension. If your pension's $3,000 a month or $36,000 per year on a guaranteed basis, plus cost of living adjustments, you would need at least $720,000 alone just to offset that. So unless you have $700,000 burning a hole in your pocket you're not using, it's going to be a really hard time to replace that money. Now remember, as that $3,000 gets bigger because of cost of living adjustments, the amount of money you have saved as a backup gets larger and larger. And while your spouse can live off of it, they need to know how to set up the distributions appropriately, what investments to choose, and puts a lot more hassle and risk on them, especially if we look realistically. This isn't happening hopefully until your 80s or 90s when this all goes down. And most times, if you're in age of 90s, last thing you want to do is figure out how to produce income from $1 million asset and not blow it on something stupid or get swindled. So it's important to really look at the survivorship benefit options because you only have one shot to get it right. And make sure you make the correct decision that's in the best interest not only for you, but for your spouse. And if they're not someone that's interested in investing now, they're definitely not going to be in their 80s or 90s. It's going to put way more stress and hassle on them. And they may have hiring an advisor that's going to charge them way more money or mess it up. And if you want to be part of the decision-making process, it's important to start getting these details hammered out now. Realistically, when I look at it, while 2/3 does make sense, that was my default option before, until I actually ran the break-even numbers on it, I really didn't know much better anyways. But the fact is, same example, if I had $3,000 a month was my full option, and let's say I took the biggest drop, let's say it was 100% survivor benefit, let's say they wanted $500 a month, that's only $2,500 per month that I'd be getting. $500 would be pretty steep. Now, this is an example, do not quote $500 or say it's a flat $300, it's just purely for educational purposes. So if it was $500 a month, you would say, hey, that's $6,000 per year, that's too expensive, I'll just go option 1. But if you look at it, $2,500 per month, still the cost of adjustments on it. If I were to kick the bucket, let's say in 1 year, after I've pulled my $30,000 out of this account, my spouse will keep getting that same $30,000 per month, or $30,000 per year, sorry. Whereas someone that took that $3,000 for the full year, while they would have got $36,000 or $6,000 more because they saved it, realistically, their spouse would get nothing else anymore. And it would take all but 4 months for the person that took the 100% survivor option to make that money back. So I've done calculators on it, and I've run all type of different scenarios. And for the most part, the 100% payout, typically your spouse is breaking even or getting at least all the money back that you gave up or lost within 2 to 3 years after you pass away. So if your spouse is younger than you and you think they're going to outlive you by 2 or 3 years, which is pretty common a lot of times, taking the 100% option probably has the highest probability that you can maximize the amount of income that you and your spouse get from the estate as a whole. Because really the goal is you're trying to get most income in total. So that's just something to think about. It's a lot deeper conversation that a lot of people make, or a lot of people don't understand how to run numbers on it properly. The 66% option is an easy one to check. I know a lot of advisors that will just tell you to check the 66% one or take the full one because they can make it work through investments. And like I mentioned earlier in the episode, trying to take income from the market, while it can be done, it's a little bit different of a beast and needs to be done correctly. You're trying to replace it with guaranteed income. And the fifth and last point on how ways to maximize your benefits is really not to get too over emotional when making investment decisions, whether you're choosing survivorship options, deciding between the TAP annuity, choosing what to invest in, where should I put my Plan 3 money, should I move it, well, the market said this, someone said this. There's a lot of emotional things that can happen. And if you just it only takes 1 or 2 wrong moves, incorrect timing, for things to really not go your way. So it's really important not to get too over emotional to it. And if the thought of making all these decisions is overwhelming, you don't trust yourself, don't trust your spouse making them all, there's no harm in using a professional service to come in there and help alleviate some of that pressure and pain and give you some expert thoughts. The same way you hire out other jobs around your home, while you could do it yourself, you want it done correctly the right way, and you don't have the time to do it all, shopping out someone to help manage all these different investment decisions, to get a planner in place, maybe someone to manage the investments, because they can be separate, oftentimes can make a lot of sense and alleviate a lot of stress and pressure on it. Remember, hiring someone, such an advisor or a planner, it's not, you should not ever view it as a cost. It is an investment in your future self, and you should make that money back with other value at a multiple of what you pay them. So if you pay an advisor $3,000 a year to build a financial plan, manage investments, whatever it is, you should be getting at least $3,000 back, if not more, through investment returns, tax advice, avoiding key mistakes, implementing the correct strategies to get you retired earlier. Because really, if you think about it, if $3,000 gave you the option to avoid a $30,000 tax mistake, avoid paying off at the wrong time and costing you $8,000 more in interest, having to work an extra 3 to 4 years because you simply didn't know that you could retire earlier than that, all those little things could be well worth the cost overall. And remember, just the cost of 1 year doesn't mean it's going to be a continuous thing. So oftentimes taking the first step to contact and start figuring out what you want and getting opinions from other people can really make a big impact from you, or you can see it at a different point. I just worked with a lot of people that are DIYs, and they still come in to pick my brain on certain things. And while sometimes works out great, sometimes it isn't so good. And someone that gets really cocky with their spreadsheets, where their sole only way they can retire is based on getting 8% returns every year for the rest of their life, is not a sustainable way. And until someone can pull aside and pick that out, they might not even see or even think about it twice. Or even someone that has an advisor, but the advisor doesn't know state employees, doesn't know the rules. I got called into an Ever Jones office. I was like virtual on their screen, walking through this financial plan, and there was nothing really great about it. They're taking way too much more money. They're going to go from 1.5 million starting to less than 700,000 within 3 years, just because they had all these big costs planned out. The advisor didn't understand tax implications. They didn't understand the penalties for taking it early because we were not 60 yet. They didn't understand that Plan 3 money can't come out before 60. And there's just a lot of loopholes and things that they didn't understand. And the tax bill was well over 6 figures. And until someone separately would sit down and go through it all those things would have been missed. Now, at the end of the day, it's up to them if they want to go through with the plan that other advisors laid out. But if that was my client, I 100% would have not have let them retire that year, or I would have changed it dramatically. So getting a second opinion, even if an advisor, can really be really impactful, especially if the savings or the value is well over 6 figures, like in that one example. If you want more information and value like this, head over to the Washington Breakthrough Community. The link is in the description below. It's free to join. I post them there all the time. I've got my free courses and resources available for you guys. You can always ask questions inside that group and get other people's opinions on questions and topics that you have in addition to my own. Hopefully I'll catch you guys over there. And until next time, always remember that your future depends on what you do today.